Children, we will continue with the balance of payment in accounting sense and also in operational sense. I told you in accounting sense and in operational sense there is difference. Now for a detailed understanding of BOP, balance of payment, in accounting sense and operational sense, I have drawn a table for you. In accounting sense, you know, it is based on the double entry book system. Therefore, there will be debit side and credit side in such a way that both of them will be balanced. Now, in order to make a proper understanding of BOP in accounting and operational sense, I have given a table for you. Let us look at the table. In the table, I have drawn 4 columns where I have represented the debit side, its amount, the credit side and the amount for the same. Now, the debit side you can find outflow of foreign exchange. Outflow of foreign exchange is represented in the debit side and inflow of foreign exchange is represented in the credit side. Now, to make a balance of payment accounting statement, we need both the current account as well as the capital account. Only with that we can make that statement. Now, both the components of capital account and current account is recorded in this particular table. Let us see that. The first 3 components of the table in both the sides, debit and the credit side, represents current account. You know what all are the items present in the current account? They are visible items, invisible items and unilateral transfers. Now, when we speak about visible items, it is goods. Invisible items, services. So, when we speak about goods, both export and import should be there, where export will be represented on the credit side, import will be represented on the debit side. That is what I have given here. Now, imports are all represented on the debit side and exports are all represented in the credit side. I hope it is clear to you. So, the first 3 components 1, 2 and 3 of both the sides that is debit side as well as the credit side represents the current account. And the 4th item, that is the capital payments and the capital receipts, they belong to capital account. So, the first 3 components represents the current account and the last 4th component represents the capital account of both the sides, where we represent capital payment and capital receipt. Capital receipt on the credit side and capital payment on the debit side. Okay. Now, I have written the amount. Amount is given as rupees in crores for both the sides. Now, the amount of all the items are given here. For the export of goods and services, the amount is 3,000. For the import of goods, amount is 3,000. Export of goods, 5,000. Again, import of services, 8,000. Export of services, that is 1,000 crores. So, accordingly the values are given here. Finally, you can see the total payment and the total receipt. This is the payment side. Debit side is the payment side and credit side is the receipt side. You can find total payment as 13,600 and total receipt also as 13,600. What did you understand from this? Both the sides are equalized. That is what I have written here. Balance of payment in accounting sense. This is accounting sense, right? Because we have represented both debit side as well as credit side, and the total given for the payment side and the receipt side is 13,600. So, in an accounting sense, balance of payment is balanced. From the table, debit side is equal to credit side, that is 13,600 is equal to 13,600. Therefore, it is balanced. So, in accounting sense, balance of payment, it is balanced. Credit side is equal to debit side. So, in accounting sense, we can see that both debit side and the credit side is balanced. Now, we will move on to balance of payment in operational sense. Now, how to find out balance of payment in operational sense? When we deal with the operational sense, you can find the actual problem involved in the balance of payment statement. In accounting sense, even though we find both the sides to be equalized, what role has been played by which account to make that equalized, that we will be able to know only when we learn balance of payment in operational sense. Now, to learn balance of payment in operational sense, we need to calculate in such a way that current account balance should be equal to capital account balance. That is how we equalize. Current account balance should be equal to capital account balance. Theoretically, we have learned how we will equalize current account balance and capital account balance. Each and every item in the current account we balance, therefore the whole current account will be balanced. Each and every item in the credit is in the capital account is balanced, therefore the whole capital account is balanced. That is how we have done in the last class. Now let us see how the current account balance is equal to capital account balance. To calculate BOP in operational sense, we need to calculate in such a way that current account balance is equal to capital account balance. Now let us see how we do current account balance. Current account balance, you know, how do we balance the current account? What are the components of current account? Keep that in mind first. What are the components of current account balance? The first component of current account is visible trade. Therefore, we have to balance each and every item in the current account. How do we balance? Values will be different. But how do we find out this balance? We have to add all the components of current account. Add all the components of current account. What are the components of current account? Unilateral transfers, visible trade and invisible trade. That is what I have written here. Balance of visible trade, balance of invisible trade, balance of unilateral transfers. These three are the components of current account. Now, how do we find out the balance of visible trade? Balance of visible trade is equal to export minus import of goods. Export minus import of goods. Balance of visible trade. How do we find out the balance of visible trade? When I say visible trade, both the sides should be there, export and import. So, how do we balance it? How do we find out that export minus import? Plus, I told you we have to add all the components of current account. We are adding on to the second component of current account, balance of invisible trade. How do we find out balance of invisible trade? Export minus import of services. Then plus add the next component, balance of unilateral transfer. How do we find balance of unilateral transfer? Receipt minus payment of unilateral transfers. Now, I have written the values of these from the board which I have given. Now, let us see what is export minus import of goods from the table. Export minus import of goods. What is export of goods? 5,000. What is import of goods? 3,000. So, what is 5,000 minus 3,000? That should be your first value. Export minus import of goods. What is that? 2,000. Similarly, export minus import of services. Now, let us see, find out the value from the table. Export minus import of services. What is export of services? 1,000 crores. What is import of services? 8,000 crores. So, 1,000 crores minus 8,000 crores will give you minus 7,000 crores. What is the next one? Receipt minus payment of unilateral transfers. Receipt of unilateral transfer and payment of unilateral transfer we will find out. What is the receipt of unilateral transfer? Unilateral transfers received, it is 1,000. What is unilateral transfer which is paid? That is 600. Therefore, difference between receipt and payment of unilateral transfer is 1,000 minus 600 will give you 400. So finally adding all these three values, 2000 plus minus 7000 plus 400. So 2000 plus minus 7000 will give you minus 5000 plus 400 will give you minus 4600. Once again minus 4600. So 2000 plus minus 7000 means minus 5000 plus 400 will give you minus 4600. This is the value. So what you should understand from this, this is a current account balance, isn't it? We will move on to the next page. BOP on the current account balance, current account shows a deficit of 4600 crores because our value was minus 4600. Therefore, BOP on the current account shows a deficit of 4600 crores because it is minus 4600 crores. Now, capital account balance. Capital account balances, likewise capital account. Capital account also we will find out. What is capital account? Capital receipt minus capital payment. What is capital receipt minus capital payment? We can find it from the table. Capital receipt is 6600 and capital payment is 2000. Therefore, 6600 minus 2000 will give you the value as 4600. 4600. 6600 minus 2000 will give you the value as 4600. So what did you understand from this? Balance of payment in the capital account shows a surplus of 4600 crores. That is what. So there is a deficit of 4600 in current account but a surplus of 4600 in the capital account. This is the actual value. Now as there is a surplus of 4600 in the capital account, all the deficit in the current account is being offset by the amount more which is present in the capital account. So what you should understand from that, a deficit of 4600 crores in the current account is offset by the surplus of 4600 crores in the capital account. So actually there was a problem of deficit of 4600 crores in the current account, but that is overcome by the surplus of 4600 crores in the capital account. So this is a role played by the capital account. Capital account thus made the balance of payment to be equalized as 13,600 and 13,600. This is how capital account has accommodated that situation. It has solved the problem of deficit in the current account with a surplus of 4600 in the capital account. See, what is the actual problem here? A deficit of 4600 in the current account. But there is a deficit and that deficit is being offset by the 4600 surplus in the capital account. So actual problem was a deficit, but that problem is rectified by the surplus in the capital account. Normally, these kind of deficit is offset by the capital account. Why? Because in the capital account we have assets. If there are more assets for a country, by selling that assets we can earn more. Now in this context, you may ask a question, can we remove the current account deficit by increasing our export? Definitely you may ask a question. Yes, we can, but there is an extent to which we can increase our export. For the production and for the export of goods, there should be there is a limit for that. There are so many restrictions for that. Otherwise, we should be that much developed to produce more and more and export. Not only goods but also technologies. But as a developing country, we have certain problems for that. But if it is a purchase of assets, if assets are there within us, we can sell it at when the situations are favorable, and thus we can remove the deficit in the current account. Therefore, capital account here plays a very important role as an accommodating person. I hope it is clear to you. Now in this context, we have to learn about an autonomous transaction and accommodating transactions. Two types of transactions we can find. First, we will move on to autonomous transactions. What are autonomous transactions? Autonomous transactions are those transactions which takes place due to profit motive. Profit motive. Profit motive means what? More inflow of foreign exchange. There are two types of transactions. When I explain accommodating transaction, this concept will be very clear to you. So, autonomous transactions are those transactions which always aims for the profit motive. Now, the next one is autonomous transactions are independent of BOP situation. Actually, what do we do in the BOP situation? We will just try to balance the debit side and the credit side. Just think, when you think about autonomous transactions, you just think in the form of operational sense. Now, it is independent of BOP situation. Next one is, it is above the line transaction. Why it is known as above the line transaction? Because it is not aimed at profit maximization. Therefore, it is known as, it takes place due to profit maximization. Therefore, it is known as above the line items. Because a country's inflow is more important. How can a country increase its inflow? That is why they are always known as above the line transactions, as they are more concerned about the profit. Here, next one is, it takes place both in the current account and capital account. The autonomous transactions takes place both in the current account as well as in the capital account. Now, when I explain the accommodating transaction, this autonomous transaction will be little more clear to you. Now, I will move on to autonomous transaction, accommodating transactions. Accommodating transactions are those transactions which are not related to profit maximization. They are not at all concerned about the profit maximization, just to equalize the debit side and the credit side. Just think about accounting sense of BOP. Equalizing the debit and credit side. When we look at the statement, we can't understand what is the actual problem in that. Both are equalized as 13,600 and 13,600. So, when you think about accounting sense of BOP, accommodating transaction will be very clear to you. Now, next is, it is undertaken to establish BOP identity. What is BOP identity? It is based on double entry book system and it has both debit side and the credit side. It has to be balanced. 13,600 is equal to 13,600 means it is a BOP identity where you get your sheet to be balanced. BOP identity is maintained there. Next is, as it is not concerned with the profit, we can say it is known as below the line items. It is a specific name given for that, below the line items, because it is not profit concerned. The next one, it takes place in capital account. When I told you about the balance of payment in operating and accounting sense, a table was given there. In that, what did I explain? A deficit in the current account is offset by the surplus of the capital account. So, who is the adjusting party there? Capital account. Capital account has adjusted and tried to keep the BOP identity where debit side is equal to credit side. When we look at the statement, we can't understand what is the actual problem there. Both the sides are equalized. Who equalized both the sides? Capital account. So, for accommodating the transactions, capital account has taken a very important role. So, it takes place in the capital account. That is the difference. Now, you can think about autonomous transaction. Autonomous transactions takes place both in the current account as well as in the capital account. They are known as above the line items because they are profit concerned. Then next is, they are not undertaken to establish BOP identity. Sometimes credit can be lesser, the previous example which we have learned through. But in accommodating transaction, they always exist for maintaining BOP identity. Whenever there is a deficit in the current account, it will be offset by the surplus of the capital account. So, accommodating is more concerned with adjusting and bringing out the BOP identity. Now, this is all about accommodating and autonomous transactions.